lot of lost tourists, grey clouds can mean only one thing. I find myself in Ireland at Kilkenny Castle. Those bodies were obviously put there probably around about the same time. 1200 years old. 1200 years old. A lot of people pretending to be Ukrainian, I've noticed.
It was slippery for me, but there's no rail.
Oh, yikes.
Can you come back now?
Dublin wasn't always Ireland's capital. Kilkenny in the 17th century for some years before old Oliver Cromwell put a stop to it. Kilkenny was the capital of Ireland. Kilkenny Cathedral there over in the distance, and this magnificent Norman castle is Kilkenny Castle. I thought we'd go have a look inside. Now, Kilkenny Castle was built or founded in the 12th century. The Normans didn't arrive here until 1185. Over 100 years, the Normans invaded England with the Battle of Hastings in 1066. And let's go and have a look inside. Welcome to Kilkenny Castle and another one of my videos. I am the Wandering Englishman. Thank you for joining me while I explore the beautiful city of Kilkenny. Kilkenny Castle was built in 1195 to control the fording point of the River Nore and the junction of several routeways. It was a symbol of Norman occupation, and in its original 13th century condition it would have formed an important element of the defences of the town, with 4 large circular corner towers and a massive ditch, part of which can still be seen today on the parade, which we will observe later in this video, so stay tuned for that. The property was transferred to the people of Kilkenny in 1967 for £50, and the castle and the grounds are now managed by the Office of Public Works. The gardens and the parklands adjoining the castle are open to the public. The parade tower is a conference venue. Awards and the conferring ceremonies of graduates of the Kilkenny campus of the National University of Ireland, Maynooth, have been held here since 2002. Well, I wasn't really supposed to be filming in there.
But rules are made to be broken.
But what a beautiful, beautiful castle. The thing I liked the most about that castle, well, the tapestry work. The tapestry work was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed seeing the tapestry work. 12 different tapestries. One wasn't finished, one was just a painting. This is the Ross Tapestry, a unique project that has been ongoing in the southeast of Ireland since 1998. It has involved over 150 stitches working on 15 very large tapestries for a permanent exhibition highlighting the Norman history of Ireland. Really, really beautiful. Anyway, let's see if we can take a stroll into the town. I've got a limited amount of time here. We're going to walk into the town. For a large part of this video, I'm going to try my best to walk around the beautiful city of Kilkenny. I'm going to try and see as much as possible in less than an hour, so do bear with me. Kilkenny is a city in County Kilkenny, Ireland. It is located in the southeast region and in the province of Leinster. Just like the castle, the city of Kilkenny is built on both banks of the River Nore. In the 2016 census, the population of Kilkenny was just under 27,000 people. Now, I'm sure anyone watching this video will probably know, because they're probably thinking, I'd like to visit Kilkenny, knows that Kilkenny is a very popular tourist destination. My aim in this video is to show you some of the major sites, but sadly I won't be able to show you everything in this brief video. That is simply impossible. I won't be able to take you to Paddy's house where he has a pint of Guinness every Thursday afternoon. Now, we've already seen Kilkenny Castle. We will head to St Canice's Cathedral and the Round Tower, which I aim to climb, so bear with me on that one, and we will stroll past Roth House and the She Arms House, so look out for them. I will admire the Black Abbey from inside and outside. I'll take in the splendour of St Mary's Cathedral, and as I whiz past it you can try and spot Kilkenny Town Hall. I'll look at what the modern day builders are doing to disgrace St Francis's Abbey, and we will take a stroll past St John's Priory, while pondering if the economy will ever return to its former glory. Kilkenny is also known for its craft and design workshops, the Watergate Theatre, which is just next to St Francis Abbey, the public gardens and museums. Annual events in Kilkenny include the Kilkenny Arts Festival, the Cat Laughs Comedy Festival, and music at the Kilkenny Roots Festival. I sound like I'm working for the Irish Tourist Board, but I am not sponsored by the Irish Tourist Board in any way. or anyone else for that matter. Kilkenny began in the early 6th century, founding itself within the Kingdom of Ossory. Following the Norman invasion of Ireland in the 12th century, Kilkenny Castle and a series of walls were built to protect the burghers of what became a Norman merchant town.
I have to say, this is one of the more beautiful cities in Ireland.
William Marshal, Lord of Leinster, gave Kilkenny a charter as a town in 1207. By the late 13th century, Kilkenny was under Hiberno Norman control. The Statutes of Kilkenny passed at Kilkenny in 1367 aimed to curb the decline of the Hiberno Norman lordship of Ireland. In 1609, King James I of England granted Kilkenny a royal charter giving it the status of a city.
When you stop to listen to Vasco, you got to have some change. I don't have any change on me. I feel a bit rude now.
Following the Irish Rebellion of 1641, the Irish Catholic Confederation, also known as the Confederation of Kilkenny, were based in Kilkenny and lasted until the Cromwellian conquest of Ireland in 1649. From 1840 onward, Kilkenny has not been administered as a city under local government law, but the Local Government Reform Act of 2014 provides for the continued use of the description of city. Kilkenny was a brewing centre from the late 17th century and still houses a number of breweries. The Heritage Council offices are at Church Lane in the former Bishop's Place, the seat of the Roman Catholic Bishop of Ossory is at St Mary's Cathedral, and the Church of Ireland Bishop of Cashel and Ossory is at St Canice's Cathedral.
I'll give you an idea on prices in Kilkenny. Ireland's not cheap anymore. Inflation's kicked in globally. A toasted sandwich, $8.95. An open brown bread sandwich, $11.95. This is euros, obviously. Beef lasagna, $11.95. Probably go for the chicken curry, $11.95. Not as cheap as it used to be.
Ireland is no exception to the global inflation happening around the world, due to authoritarian governments stopping the supply chain, all in the name of staying at home and saving lives, which in the longer scheme of things cost us more lives and encroached on our liberties and freedoms. I've spent a lot of time in Ireland in recent months, and I'm glad to be back in the homeland of my granddad and my nana, but seeing firsthand the Irish suffering at the hands of their globalist government has made me angry. The Irish are some of the most lovely and enchanting people you could possibly ever meet, and yet their history, culture and land is being taken away from them faster than sterling is losing its value. More on that later. The YouTube algorithm doesn't like my channel, mostly because I'm not a vanilla cheesecake travel channel. I do come with an opinion, but if you like my content and you appreciate my content, do give this video a like, do click that subscribe button, and if you're feeling generous, feel free to join the channel either through Subscribestar, Patreon, Ko-fi, or clicking the join button. It really helps these videos to be continued to be made. Walking up this gentle hill, we approach the beautiful St Mary's Catholic Cathedral. Built in 1202 close to Kilkenny Castle, under the newly established Norman rule of Kilkenny, a tower was added in 1343, although that tower is no longer there. Throughout the Middle Ages, the church's upkeep was financed by the towns and then later the city's merchants. Thus, the church became the pride of the merchant class in Kilkenny, and many of its prominent members are buried there, including the Shee family, the Archer family, the Roth family from Roth House, and the Bishop David Roth. Only the wealthiest of the burgesses were allowed to be buried within the church. The town council held meetings in the building as well as court sessions. In the 16th century, it was used as a venue for town plays. After the Reformation, the building fell into disrepair. It became a Protestant church like St Canice's Cathedral and St John's Priory, even though the Protestant population in Kilkenny was declining from 20% in 1731 to 5% by 1800. This resulted in the building of the Catholic churches of the same name, St Canice's Church, St John's Church and St Mary's Cathedral, in later years. In 1603, with James I on the throne, the church was converted back to serve the Catholic population, only to be later converted again to be used by the Church of Ireland congregation. At the time of the Confederation of Kilkenny, 1642 to 1649, it was again in the Catholic hands, with Archbishop Rinasuni celebrating High Mass. In 1957, it was finally deconsecrated and restored for the use as a parish and badminton hall, as well as a lodge for the Freemasons. It is believed the cathedral once had a bell tower, but it's speculated it fell down many hundreds of years ago. Fortunately for you guys, we will see another bell tower later in this video. In 2009, the property was bought by Kilkenny County Council. Honestly, a truly magnificent specimen of a church in my mind. Truly, truly wonderful. I'm not a born-again Christian. I'm simply a fan of seeing human beings excel, and human beings excelled so much with the religious buildings that they put up over the centuries. This being one of them, and some of the ones you're about to see being others. If you're curious about other churches, check out my church playlist. But I urge you to watch to the end of this video to see more amazing sights of Kilkenny.
How are you? Afternoon, yeah, I'm good.
Heading out of St Mary's up the road in a northerly fashion, we head to the Black Abbey. The Black Abbey of Kilkenny Island is a Catholic priory of the Dominican order dedicated to the Holy and Undivided Trinity. The Black Abbey was established in 1225 as one of the first houses of the Dominican Order of Ireland. The history of the Black Abbey is marked by several reversals of fortune under different governments. The name Black Abbey derives from the use of the term Black Friars to describe members of the Dominican order. This in turn derives from the black kappa or cloak that the Dominicans wear over their white habits. When the priory was founded in the 13th century, the town of Kilkenny was divided into two parts by the Bregat River. One part was occupied mainly by indigenous Irish town, and the other by English, the Norman settlers. The Dominicans established the priory between those two towns and outside the city walls because they wished to show their independence from either side. In practical terms, the site chosen for the priory presented challenges because ever since the priory was established right up to the present time, the buildings were subject to annual flooding from the river, not the greatest location in hindsight. In 1349, the community within the priory was affected by the outbreak of the bubonic plague, known as the Black Death. 8 members of the community died in 3 months during the pandemic, a real pandemic, that is. After the plague years, very few structural changes were carried out at the priory up until the end of the 15th century. In 1558, Ireland was under the rule of Elizabeth I of England, a Protestant queen, and the property of the priory was confiscated by the crown. Elizabeth died in 1603, but the policies of the new Protestant king, James I, did not change. The priory became a courthouse, and the Dominicans were forced to leave and find places to stay in other houses. From 1642 to 1649, the Black Abbey played a major part in attempting to save both the Irish Catholic religion and the King. Charles I of England and Ireland, the Abbey hosted the government known as the Irish Catholic Confederation. This effort did not last long. However, in March 1650, the English army under the command of Oliver Cromwell surrounded Kilkenny in the siege. Many people died from the epidemic and hunger, and many more fled before the city finally surrendered. From 1685 to 1689, under the rule of the Catholic King, James II of England, the Abbey flourished, but in 1690, under the rule of the Protestant King, William III of England, both Kilkenny and the Abbey were once again occupied by the English. By 1776, the community of the Black Abbey was close to zero, but starting in that year, the Dominicans retook possession of the Abbey, first by renting it, and then in 1816, the Black Abbey was restored as the Dominican Priory, and the first public mass was held on the 25th of September 1816. On Trinity Sunday, the 22nd of May 1864, the Black Abbey was reconsecrated by the bishop and was finally opened again as the House of Prayer.
Basically, I'm in a rush. I've got less than an hour in the city. I've been kindly dropped off here. We've got to try to see as much as possible. Just try to show you guys what can be seen in 1 hour.
If you're still with me, then it means you are not averse to a good church, so I thank you. We will now walk further north to get to the most exceptional wonder of Kilkenny, at least in my mind. When I look upon these religious sites, I think of all the man-hours and dedication our ancestors put in to give so much joy to those that came after them. It's like the man who plants the tree. He's not doing it for himself, he's doing it for future generations. And this is exactly what those builders and architects did back in the day when they built these amazing religious sites. Not only are they magnificent places to contemplate life, the universe and God, but also places to be admired away from the hustle and bustle of the modern day vacuous consumer world that too many of us live in. St Canice's Cathedral, also known as Kilkenny Cathedral, is a cathedral of the Church of Ireland in Kilkenny. Previously the cathedral of the Diocese of Ossory, it is now one of 6 cathedrals in the United Dioceses of Cashel and Ossory. The present building dates from the 13th century and is the second longest cathedral in Ireland, after St Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin. And if you have not had the chance to visit St Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin, I highly recommend it. It is outstanding. The cathedral stands on the site of the Celtic Christian monastery, said to have been founded in the 6th century by St Canice as a daughter house of Agabo Abbey. The Synod of Rathblazel in 1111, which first divided Ireland into territorial dioceses, including both Abbey and Kilkenny in the Diocese of Ossory. Thus the Abbey Church was labelled as a cathedral. Following the English Reformation, the Reformed Church in Ireland was established by decree of the Irish Parliament to become the state church in the Kingdom of Ireland as the Church of Ireland, taking possession of most church property and so retaining a great repository of religious architecture and other items, though some were later destroyed. The substantial majority of the population, however, remained faithful to Roman Catholicism, despite the political and economic advantages of the membership in the state church. Since St Canice's Cathedral was taken over in this way, the Roman Catholic adherents were consequently obliged to worship elsewhere. Hence, St Mary's Cathedral in Kilkenny was later built for the Roman Catholic diocese. The cathedral contains some 16th century monuments. The architectural style of this cathedral is early Gothic and is built of limestone. It is richly endowed with many stained glass windows, including the east window, which is a replica of the original 13th century window.
Honestly, fantastic, beautiful, beautiful cathedral.
The cathedral contains some of the finest 16th century monuments in Ireland. Kilkenny was the ancient capital of the Kingdom of Ossory, and St Canice's Cathedral stands on a site which has experienced Christian worship since the 6th century.
So I'm not going to have time to do the tower, but it's one of these round towers. It's similar to what you see in Glendalough, and the round tower would be basically a lookout point, the highest point in this area, looking out for invaders, call to prayer for also, ring the bell, but mostly a lookout point. You notice the raised platform over there. Now there's a queue, it's going to take about 20 minutes. I think you go one up at a time. It's less than 5 minutes to get to the top, 5 minutes to get down. But a little bit of a queue. Very, very, very beautiful, beautiful cathedral. One of the, I think, more impressive than St Patrick's maybe. So it is now September, and by the miracle of YouTube, I have come back to Kilkenny because I wanted to climb the Round Tower. Now, the hope is there isn't a queue. That's the hope. There's a few people, but this is a 9th century tower, and it only has a depth of 0.6 meters, 60 centimeters. How it's standing for over 1,000 years is beyond my understanding. It's remarkable. So I got my tickets. It's $5.50 for adults, $5 if you're a student. I'm not going to play the student card today.
St Canice's Tower is an example of a well-preserved 9th century Celtic Christian round tower. It is dedicated to St Canice. It is one of only 3 such medieval round towers in Ireland that can still be climbed to the top. The other 2 being the Kildare Round Tower in Kildare Town and Devonish Round Tower in County Fermanagh. Wow, okay. Everyone climbs at their own risk. So let's do this. Got a backpack on. Okay.
barn, really, isn't it?
How are you finding the climb, strangers?
Hello?
Nearly all of our towers are the same size, around 30 of your meters. The foundations are quite shallow, so this tower is leaning a little bit now. But don't worry, I'm sure it will stay up long enough for you to reach the top. On you go.
All right. How was it?
Exhilarating. That was good.
How many more platforms?
Oh, two, I think.
Squeeze by. Thank you very much.
Come down.
You coming down?
Since no one wants that, come down.
I'll take this one.
So one thing to know, the very last 4 steps or so are stone.
Are they slippery, are they?
They're not slip. Well, it depends on your shoes. They weren't slippery for me, but there's no rail.
Oh, yikes.
So you come back down. The bottom strips, the last step is farther than the others. So
Thank you very much.
it's totally worth it.
Okay, I'll squeeze by there. Thank you. Is anyone else up there?
There's one man, one gentleman. There's plenty of room once you get up there.
Okay.
And it's worth the view. It's such a beautiful day.
Thank you very much. I tell you, if you're a little bit daunting with heights, this is intimidating. Claustrophobic as well. But, you know, let's keep going. My bag is scraping against the wall. Oh wow, so here we are with the last little section. I'm gonna head up here. Oh my word. Hey, how are you doing? How are you?
How are you?
Wow, what a view.
Tough climb.
That is a tough climb actually.
The summit gives a clear view of Kilkenny and the countryside around. The hill on which the cathedral stands is believed to be in the centre of the first major settlement of Kilkenny, and the Round Tower suggests an early ecclesiastical foundation. Much less is known about the earlier secular structures, but the area around the cathedral, called Irish Town, is the oldest part of the present city. The present building was begun in the 13th century when it was in the western end of Kilkenny and shows some similarities to St Patrick's Cathedral, Dublin, both dating from the same period and completed by the end of the 13th century.
So I'm going to crouch down because it's very windy and I have to be honest, my camera is not very good in the wind. As soon as I get above the fencing, the view is remarkable up here. This tower, what's a little bit daunting about it is it leans slightly, not as much as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but it does lean slightly. You kind of notice that as you're ascending up. Now it's stood for 1,000 years, but you know, the law of sod, it could go today, but I don't think it will. But what's remarkable is its depth is 0.6 meters. 0.6 meters, that's not much, that's 60 centimeters. And what they found when they were excavating underneath it, which probably didn't help when it came to the stabilization of this tower, was they found 2 human bodies and also some animals. Now, given that the tower is 9th century, those bodies were obviously put there probably around about the same time, or maybe this was a burial site and it just happened that there were bodies underneath there, but they were arranged in a sort of west to east fashion, which is effectively a Christian burial way to bury someone. The understanding is they were probably put there, but quite remarkable.
Round towers are particularly an Irish feature. They were built at major religious sites, at places of refuge for body and treasure. During the times of the Viking raids from the end of the 8th century, St Canice's Round Tower offers breathtaking 360-degree views of the surrounding countryside from its summit. Hardly surprising, since that was the other reason they were built. The presence of the Round Tower here is the clearest sign of the antiquity of St Canice's as an important religious site. There is a reference that suggests a mid-9th century date for it, making it the oldest standing structure in the city. It carries the same protected status as the cathedral and similarly is of national importance. Now I've just come off the ledge to give you some perspective of what it probably was like for those that were the monks and the priests that were trying to evade the sort of invaders, which happened a lot obviously back from the Vikings, and then we had the Cromwell and his merry men, horrible men. What would have happened is this would have been a roof, but there would have been a conical structure, sort of like looks like a cone at the top of the tower, but now they've made it into a viewing platform. So I imagine this would have been the top, and they would have looked out of here thinking, are they going to get up? But it would have been a great view. Fantastic view. Well, it gives you some perspective on how tall this thing is. 100 feet, 30 meters. Beautiful, beautiful tower. I love the fact we've got vegetation growing in the tower here. Just sort of random vegetation. Nature always takes hold. Isn't it remarkable? You've probably seen buildings that were built in the last 30, 40 years that are falling apart, whereas this is 1200 years old. 1200 years old, and it still stands out as remarkable. Anyway, that was worth coming back for. I'm gonna take in a little bit more of the city once again. That's the remarkable thing about time travel and YouTube. I can fast forward and rewind time, and we can all benefit. The name Kilkenny itself retains the anglicised version of the Irish Sil Kinnear, which translates as Church of Kinnear or Canice. Just between the Round Tower up the high street back towards the castle, I spot this derelict church over here. Now this is a very old church, but I can't get to it because just built this monstrosity here called the Brew House. I guess it's going to be a commercial premises. More buildings here. All thanks to good old friends at the European Union. Investing in your future, the European Social Fund. Maybe they will restore that and it will be glorious, but they didn't really think about the aesthetics, I don't think. They weren't thinking, is that really going to match that beautiful old ruined church? Let's put some yellow bricks down. The St. Francis Abbey not only was home to a number of monks, but also home to monks who loved a good ale. The ugly building's name is clearly inspired by the brewing that has been in Kilkenny for centuries. Back in the day, the brewing was done by the monks. However, it was when John Smithwick moved to Kilkenny in the 1700s when the ale became much improved. John set up the Smithwick's Brewery, and as we head south up the high street, we see Smithwick's Brewery on the left, which is opposite Roath House on the right. This is the old home to the Roath family, which is an old Tudor manor. Sadly, neither the Smithwick's Experience or Roath House did I have time for, but I aim to check out both these places when I return to Kilkenny, and I'm told these destinations are worthy of visitors' time. See, I'm sounding more and more like the tourist office once again. If you are the tourist office, click that thanks button. Now this quaint little street is called St. Kieran's Street. Of note on this street is Kettler's Inn, a fun Irish pub that is spread over 2 floors and regularly has the sounds of Irish music that engulfs the punters who frequent this merry establishment. If you manage to make it this far, let me know what pint you would order at the Kettler's Inn. Would it be a Smithwick's? Would it be a Kilkenny? Would it be a Guinness? Or would it be something else? Maybe it would be one of our island's new craft beer offerings. The Irish craft scene has much improved in recent years. Certainly an emerging market when it comes to craft beer. Not quite there yet, but certainly on the improving side. And as we get closer to the castle, which is where I'm going to be picked up, you get to see that I experienced Kilkenny in an hour. Now obviously it's better to spend more time in Kilkenny, but as you can see, it's possible to sort of tour around the major sites in 1 hour. This is the kind of place you could spend many a night. The nightlife here is quite the crack, as the Irish will say. You can even come out of a pub drunk and head into a local Indian restaurant, or you can pick up some Irish food. With the aid of time travel, I decided to take in the bridge that crosses the River Nore, so I could take in the lower and upper John Street.
I find myself on the river. I missed the river last time, but you can see why the castle would have been built where it was. Strategic place on the river, easy access, also a good view of seeing any potential raiders coming up the river. A really, really beautiful town, and there's a lot to this city, more to the city than meets the eye, and you can see why it's so popular with the tourists. This side of town hasn't really picked up since the decimation of COVID. You can see that Molly's Cafe, the pizzeria, is closed. What generally happens is people walk up the high street and they avoid this little part of the town, so probably the rents are cheap, but because of that, places are suffering. Not much is actually open. Damn shame. A massive comparison to the other side where everything is open.
Ireland was one of the most locked down economies in the entire world, thanks to its incredibly socialist government. May that never happen ever again.
All these little beautiful churches scattered around Kilkenny. It's weird, last time I was here I missed this side of the high street, mostly because this part of town, which kind of takes you out of the city, is a busier street. Despite the fact that many places are shut, there's still a little bit of life on this street. Brogan's probably hasn't seen life since 2020. Hopefully it will change. Hopefully life will come back. I noticed there was a Help Ukraine shop set up back there. Ukrainians and some questionable Ukrainians were sort of queuing up for clothes. And I say questionable Ukrainians, a lot of people pretending to be Ukrainian, I've noticed. They don't even speak the language yet. Somehow they managed to get away with being Ukrainian in Ireland.
You've arrived, I see you've arrived here at the refugee centre here.
Yes, sir.
For Ukraine, yeah?
Yes, sir, Ukraine.
Are you Ukrainians?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian refugees continue to flee the country, including this Ukrainian refugee family.
But that's a story for another day, I think. Here we have quite a modern statue to Gaelic football. I have no idea what this material is, but it's, well, granite. It feels almost light, but it's modern day granite, and this is by Barry Rafter, modern day sort of comical statue of Gaelic football, right next to or underneath Kilkenny Castle. I find myself in this antique shop, and there's a few sort of things that remind me of my past. Down here we've got a Guinness mirror. Almost trips over there, almost broke something. But there's a couple of objects over here that would remind me of my Irish grandmother. Knickknacks, cutlery, china for when you're having tea.
If you made it this far, are you from Kilkenny? And if you're not, have you visited Kilkenny? And if you haven't, are you now planning to visit Kilkenny? And also, if you haven't done it already, click that like button and do click the subscribe button. It really helps this channel out. It is very much appreciated.
And there we have it. We have Kilkenny done in under an hour. Kilkenny Castle, 2 cathedrals, 1 amazing church. Saw some of the local sites. Didn't get to meet the local people. But if you like this content, until next time, I'll see you in the next video.